media.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. Good news for once. We're not here to talk completely about Justin Trudeau, although it's something that has to do with Justin Trudeau, and something that I'm actually very happy to report on today. Something that I've definitely been eager to hear and eager to see. I knew it was coming eventually. Now, I had no indication that it was coming this soon, as things are still moving along in the old judicial system. But ladies and gentlemen, I have some earth-breaking news for you, and good news to share with you today. Tamara Lich tweeting out, just to ensure clarity, the no contact order between myself and Chris Barber was dropped by the judge this morning as the evidence portion of the trial has concluded. The rest of my conditions and no contact orders still stand for now. It's a step in the right direction, and I'm glad for the grateful win. Now, this is amazing. It's good to see because it's been over 2 years. This trial has been dragged out for a long time. This trial was actually supposed to wrap up last September. Then it was delayed until October. Then it was moved to December. Now it's going to drag on till at least this September of 2024. As the prosecution essentially is showing clear signs they have nothing to stand on. They have no grounds to stand on in the prosecution of either Chris Barber or Tamara Lich moving forward. Of course, you see here on their Twitter post, over 2 years, and here it is, her with Chris Barber hanging out, good old smile on their face. Great to see those two together, especially without Keith Wilson or Eva Chipiuk behind them. Not that I don't like Keith or Eva, but it's nice to see them have some of their freedoms back, to be allowed to be together. I've heard a little bit of rumblings that we may see these two in a different form moving forward. I'm not going to spoil anything, but keep your eyes on the lookout for these two fine folks, as some things could be announced very shortly. Of course, Eva Chipiuk tweeting out, enjoy. Dave saying, Tamara Lich to the Order of Canada, you deserve the highest honor. Thank you for all that you do and have done for Canada. Much love. Of course, love you guys. Thank you for everything you've done for the country. And of course, the horse with the Canadian flag. We've got getting the band back together. Gotta love the play on words, but it works here. It's so glad to see you friends back where they should be. More power to you. I mean, the comments just keep going on and on. It's awesome, guys. You made Canada great again. Congratulations. Still, I believe you did the right thing. Two heroes in my book. There isn't a ton of negativity, at least usually, considering that Twitter is such a toxic online community. There really isn't a lot of negative space going on there. But it's going to be interesting to see as their trial concludes later this fall, hopefully, what happens next. Of course, there's still the provincial lawsuit against the Freedom Convoy by Zexi Lee and Paul Chump to deal with. And again, that's for, I believe it's somewhere in the vicinity of $400 million or something. It's some astronomical amount that, again, I feel that it's going to be, the writing's going to be on the wall with the verdict of this trial, that essentially there's nothing for them to push to a judge. There's nothing for them. There's no legs to stand on. But of course, the mainstream media still, of course, loves to paint Chris and Tamara as villains. They always like to push them out as villains. You can see here this post from Global News as the trial got underway. Of course, the rhetoric that they use to describe Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. Let's take a listen.
In Ottawa, criminal trials are now underway for two of the highest profile leaders of last year's so-called Freedom Convoy that shut down streets near Parliament Hill for weeks. Tamara Lich and Chris Barber are charged with mischief, obstructing police, and intimidation of Parliament. If convicted, they could be sentenced to time in jail. David Akin was in the courtroom today. David, what does the prosecution have to prove to make these charges stick?
Well, you know, Donna, this is going to be a closely watched trial for any number of reasons, not the least of which is we're going to have two sides, the Crown and the defense, arguing about free speech rights, about the rights of protest. Now, in his opening statement, the Crown prosecutor told the court that charter rights are not unqualified, that they are not absolute. He promised to show how Tamara Lich and Chris Barber were, quote, key organizers of the protest, that they exercised influence over the placement of trucks in downtown Ottawa, they caused roads to be obstructed, and those two pressured decision makers. The prosecutor told the court that, quote, this case is not about their political views. What's at issue is the means Lich and Barber employed, not the ends. Now, the Crown will argue this was anything but a peaceful process. that these two crossed the lines and they committed multiple crimes. Now, the defense lawyer for Barber had a very brief reply in her opening statement. She said, "My client participated in a lawful, peaceful protest, and that the two of them actually assisted police during the protest." Donna.
David, how is this trial going to play out in terms of witnesses and testimony?
Well, this is just day one of 16 days that have been set aside for this proceeding. The Crown expects to put out 120 exhibits, including 50 videos. We saw one of those videos today, a 12-minute long compilation from the police of video from those weeks in January and February. We're going to have 22 witnesses, police officers, city officials, 9 residents of downtown Ottawa. And here's something, the defense will want to exclude all those residents. The defense wants no residents on the witness stand. Now, both Tamara Lich and Chris Barber were in court today. They were accompanied by their spouses. They didn't have much to say in the court today, and to be honest, we're not very sure if they're even going to testify in this matter. Donna.
All right.
Now, you'll remember David Aiken here, who is the reporter that Pierre Poilievre went to verbal blows with over misinformation, we'll call it, since the Liberals love to use those words. Of course, David Aiken always put in his place. This guy loves to victimize the Freedom Convoy. He likes to paint such a negative picture. Now, you'll notice down here that it says Lich and Barber trial expected to last 16 days. This was 8 months ago. We're now being delayed over a year just to get through this trial. Again, everything they discussed in this video, essentially saying that the prosecution has nothing. But the one thing they argue in there is saying that the Charter of Rights is not absolute. I kind of thought that was the whole purpose of Charter of Rights. It's kind of Canada's Declaration of Independence, so to speak, in terms of, or our Bill of Rights. I guess Declaration of Independence isn't really necessarily, you know what I mean? It's essentially Canada's Bill of Rights for its citizens. So why that wouldn't be considered absolute, again, is a semantics argument for the court. But if our charter rights aren't absolute, then what is? I really love how they say that these two essentially sat together and schemed up this entire Freedom Convoy and implored all this negative, violent protesting on Ottawa's streets and caused traffic delays, when yet again, every single weekend we've got Palestinian protests flooding streets all over the country, causing violence, threatening people. We've seen not just Palestine, but we've seen Israeli protests get to the same point. Not as big or as violent as the Palestinian protests, but these are protests that involve events and wars that are happening outside of the country. This was a group of protesters who went to the Capitol simply asking the Prime Minister to hear what they had to say. They requested him several times to give them an audience. Of course, he ignored them. He refused to, and they said they were comfortable staying until he was ready to listen to them. And of course, it wound up in them being arrested and told it's absolute, or their freedoms aren't absolute, and we're going to delay your trial for years and years and years while we clog up the judicial system. But if you steal gold and get caught at Pearson International Airport and you're a landed immigrant, well, you get catch and release. And like, do you get what I'm saying here? Like, this is the problem with our country. We let actual criminals walk. You know, people are told leave your keys on your doorstep so people can steal your cars. But if you commit mischief, like, which is usually in the lines of things like spray painting graffiti on something, well, you get over a year's trial, you get separation from people. You're told you can't have a bank account. You're thrown in solitary confinement. I don't know if you guys are aware, Tamara Lich thrown for several weeks in solitary confinement, essentially just so the government can make an example out of her. If you haven't read her book, Hold the Line, go check it out. It's an amazing book, amazing autobiography from Tamara Lich, and one that I've read multiple times and can tell you right now, it is absolutely incredible, the stories that you hear in the pages of that book. But let me know what you guys think down below. Is it any wonder to you that this trial has gone on so long? Again, I'm relieved to see that Tamara and Chris are able to come in contact with each other, be around each other, that you don't have to keep doing these draconian measures amongst each other of, well, we got to have lawyers present and we got to make sure nobody goes back to jail. It's nice to see, at least as this breaks down, it also gives me more confidence that essentially the prosecution has nothing and no legs to stand on moving forward. And as long as they want to draw this out, it's nothing more to those organizers of the Freedom Convoy aside from inconvenience. Again, I want to hear what you guys have to say. If it's your first time here, I hope you enjoyed this video and it's earned your subscription. Make sure as you're clicking the subscribe button, you hit your bell for notifications. Join us live every Friday here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, where we go over everything that's happened in the past week, everything coming up in the week ahead, and a little bit of back and forth between our community. Just a reminder that May long weekend, I will be out of town, so there will be no live stream upcoming on that Friday, but then we resume every Friday after that. Again, people want to get out of town, people want to do things, so I don't expect a lot of people to devote their time to hearing little old me blathering on the internet in the live stream. However, it's always great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos. I always look forward to what you guys have to give in terms of feedback, what your opinions are. It's always the highlight of my week. So I hope to see you in the following live stream. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.